everyone. My name is Teresa Wagner and I am with Empire Property Management. Today I will be going over some important changes that have happened in Oregon over the past few days and how it will be impacting us as landlords, and most importantly, what we can do about it. Just a quick note before I begin, this is not legal advice and it should not be taken as such. To get started, say that last week was an especially trying week as we all struggled to have our voices heard during Oregon's special legislative session. A lot of things happened that were good for our economy and for our state, and a lot of things happened that were not good. Before I begin though, I want to go over some definitions for reference, just right here. So you'll be hearing it a little bit during this video. The emergency period is the period from April 1st to September 30th, 2020. Non-payment balance. Non-payment balance traditionally is thought of as the non-payment of rent. So it's usually consists of rent as well that you would evict on with a 72-hour notice or 144-hour notice. It has been updated for this crisis to include all amounts accrued during this emergency period. It includes utilities, service charges, non-compliance fees, rent, etc. It includes all amounts that the tenant owes during their tenancy during the emergency period. Termination without cause. Termination without cause. This includes termination without cause during the first year of tenancy, a non-renewal during the first year for a lease, your qualifying landlord reasons. As you know, SB 608 gives us 4 qualifying landlord reason, 4 cause notices, but they are now included in the no cause notice. And then also owner occupied no cause notice. This is when a owner lives on the property along with the tenant, and the owner can give a notice, but in this case they cannot. All right, and let's get started on HB 4213. So HB 4213 extends the eviction moratorium until September 30th, 2020 for no cause notices and non-payment of rent notices. We've all been kind of dealing with this throughout the past few months for non-payment of rent and the no cause notices. We knew that we weren't able to issue those due to Governor Brown's executive order. So they extended that along with a couple of other things. 4 cause notices, save for non-payment, are still permitted, although they will be delayed due to the court backups and court closures that we are going through right now. So during this time, landlords may not issue no cause notices, 72-hour notices, 144-hour notices, or issue late fees. The tenants do not have to provide notice to the owner that they cannot pay the rent or that they have been impacted by COVID-19. They simply don't have to do anything. You don't have to receive a notice from them, no letter, no phone call, text, nothing. The tenant simply can stop paying the rent, and there's nothing you can really do about it until September 30th. After September 30th, the landlord can still not evict for payments that accrued during April 1st to April 30th. They cannot evict for payments that became due between April 1st and September 30th. HB 4213 requires that the landlord accepts payments for 6 months after September 30th to repay this accrued balance. The tenant is not required to set up any specific payment plan with the landlord. The landlord cannot require a certain payment plan. It simply states that the tenant has to pay it back within that 6 months. But more information on that later on. So the situation is rather bleak for us as landlords, but there are a couple of things that we can do. Most of our tools were taken, but we still have a few left. So I'll just go over a couple that we do have. So the landlord is permitted to send what they call a friendly reminder to the tenant, stating that they have an accrued balance, stating what that balance is, and but the notice has to state that we cannot evict them until after September 30th. It does not say if we can send this friendly reminder multiple times. At this time, until we receive further information, we are planning on only sending it out once for now to our tenants that have fallen behind. But there is no clear set rule on whether or not we can send this friendly reminder out multiple times. For now, we're going to stick with the one time until we receive word that we can do otherwise. We do still have the 3 violation for cause notice. So should the tenant accrue 3 for cause notices that are not related to non-payment of rent, then we as a landlord can evict them and initiate an eviction action for repossession of the property. If your tenant's first year of occupancy ends during this emergency period, so during this emergency period, you cannot issue no cause notices to the tenant. If your tenant's first year of occupancy ends during this emergency period, then you, after September 30th, you do have an additional 30 days to issue a no cause notice to them. Your qualifying landlord reasons are out. So for example, if you wanted to move a tenant out to remodel your property and it was, it would make the property inhabitable for the tenant, then that option for you is gone. You can no longer move the tenant out. If you wish to convert the unit to a non-residential use, you can no longer do that. The only exception that we are left with is if you are planning on listing the home for sale, you can still list the home for sale. And if you can move the tenant out, if you have an accepted offer from someone who is planning on occupying the home as their primary residence, you do still have to give a 90-day notice and follow the law under SB 608. Once the emergency period is up, the landlord may issue a 14-day notice to the tenant stating how much they owe, and asking that they notify us of their intent of whether they will be using the 6-month repayment plan. If the tenant does not notify the landlord within those 14 days, then the landlord is owed an additional 50% of their rent. So if the tenant's rent is $1,000 and they fail to notify the landlord within that required time period, then the tenant owes the landlord an additional $500. The tenant still gets the 6-month repayment option, but they owe the landlord another $500. And then one other thing, if you have any rent that is owed to you from before April 1st, so if you have January, March, February, if you have any of those rents owed to you, then you are able to initiate an eviction action for non-payment. Except in the case of Multnomah County, they do have to wait until July 7th. And that pretty much wraps up our brief update on HB 4213. As stated earlier, this is not legal advice and it should not be taken as such. This is a new law for everyone. It just came out last week and everybody's still learning it, so we will only know every little detail on it once it hits the courts and runs its course. So for now, we're going to do what we can to work with our tenants, accommodate their needs and requests while still working with our owners to ensure that their needs are met as well. If you have any questions or concerns, please contact your property manager. And as always, happy landlording.